All right, just got back on Sunday, played Friday, doubleheader on Saturday. Pretty rare. We were really fortunate. We got to be catch a little bit of an earlier flight. So getting home into Pittsburgh before midnight was a major plus. So our guys got to get off their feet a little bit on Sunday, wake up at a reasonable hour, get back into Morgantown, and today's a little bit more of that rest and recover kind of day. So guys are working optionally in the cages and throwing if they need to, kind of getting their feet back under them academically and lifestyle wise. And we'll play a scrimmage tomorrow with primarily all the guys that didn't pitch this weekend to keep them fresh and keep them developing and get ready for Liberty.
We use the raise hands again to any questions. Spencer, we'll go to you. Spencer, you're here.
Hey, Steve. So how would you evaluate your three Division two pitchers after seeing them throw a little bit this weekend? They all kind of had different performances.
It was great to see him out there competing for the first time at the Division 1 level. I think we played a very competitive offense. And so it was awesome to see them get challenged. And um, Chance and Cole started off on Friday and held his own. Certainly, he wasn't as sharp as we had seen him in the past. He never really quite got his changeup working the way that he wanted to, but got his feet wet. Dawson Montesa probably had the best start out of anybody. Certainly had the best start out of anybody this weekend. He was really competitive. He found his curveball in the third inning and was able to really pitch off of that, and that helped play up his fastball a little bit. And then Ian Corn really neutralized and stabilized the game for us, and he clipped off 4 innings this weekend. So those kids did great, especially in their first outing. I think they're going to learn a lot and grow and develop, but really liked what we saw.
Kevin, we'll go to you.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you, Kevin?
And not bad. Hey, a couple guys took dings in the game. So, what is their status right now, Brody and Gavin?
I think good right now. Brody was walking around the airport pretty comfortably. I guess maybe comfortably wouldn't be the right word, but he was walking um, on the airport. He got banged up. He got a fastball to the shin and it blew up pretty good. So he had a baseball-sized welt on his shin, and so it was hard to put weight on. But he was moving good. He said he'll be good by the weekend, but we got to kind of see over the next couple days if we're able to flush that out a hair. Gavin's good. No issues there. He had a pretty heavy weekend though. Played 2 games at second, 1 game behind the dish. We ended up, I think someone said we won 3 games within 24 hours, and we were at the baseball field for about 12 hours on Saturday. So it was just a very long day, lots of back and forth, lots of pitching changes. And so to go from lots of indoor training and a little bit of outdoor training with 4 hour limitations on practice days to being at the field for 12 hours is just different on the body. Guys get beat up a little bit, hips and backs and lower backs from buses and from planes. And so all that's a learning curve too, just how guys take care of themselves. But I think we survived weekend 1 without any serious injuries.
And I'm sure you'd have rather cruise to a win in a game that you get out on 7 runs in the first inning, but help a little bit of giving you a sense of, hey, where's this team when it faces some adversity?
Yeah, it's funny. I think in the moment you'd have less gray hair if you cruised to every victory, but probably the reality of playing these games is that you have to go through some of that and you have to be thrown in the fire and you have to see how players respond. And then it gives you an opportunity to continue putting your foot on the gas. And so we ask a lot of those starters to stay in that game and find a way to win the game. And eventually it was Gavin Kelly still stealing third with 2 outs on his own because he had signaled to me that he had the pitcher picked as far as feeling confident that he would be able to steal third. So a really risky play when you're already in scoring position, because if you get thrown out at third and you end the inning with an opportunity to get a hit to go ahead in that game, it would be viewed as an unintelligent coaching decision. But you also can't win games if you're trying to not lose games. And so Gavin tried to win the game and made a huge play and caused a catcher to throw the ball into left field that eventually led to the winning run. So those kind of things and those moments and those growth opportunities don't happen unless it's a tight game. And so the truth is, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think at the end of the game, you're pretty exhausted and your head's spinning a little bit more if you would have cruised to a 12-0 win. But I think pretty important for the growth of the team long term.
Bob, we'll go to you.
Yes, Steve Purcell. Couple of questions. The first one was on Chase Meyer. I can't remember seeing anybody go out with an 0-2 count on the batter, and I think you did, and take the pitcher out of the game. Was that a pitch count thing, or what happened there?
Yeah, that was a little bit unusual. Again, one of those decisions that is a non-traditional decision that worked out for us, and we've made a lot of those that we think's in the best interest of the team. Essentially, McDougal was in the game, and Ben McDougal wasn't getting a lot of swing and miss on the fastball, and that's normally his bread and butter. He throws a fastball that's very hard to get on top of. It rides, and hitters swing under the fastball. This team had a great approach against him, and he wasn't getting any swing and miss. So the batter before, I think there was an 8 to 10 pitch at bat, and McDougal just kept attacking, kept attacking, kept attacking, and he eventually walked him. But it might have been 12 or 14 pitches. And so for whatever reason, the hitters were seeing his fastball better that day. And so then he came, and I believe it was John Davis in the 0-2 count that you were referring to. He got him to 0-2 and threw two more pitches, and they were both fouled off. And the go-ahead run, if I'm not mistaken, was on second base. And Chase Meyer had gotten hot, and Chase Meyer has the best out pitch, arguably in the country, in his curveball. And so we were kind of watching and felt like slow motion. The guy kept fouling off Ben McDougal's best pitches, and it was 0-2, and a very important out was needed at the plate. And we felt like in that moment, I felt like Chase Meyer's breaking ball in an 0-2 count would be able to get the strikeout. And if it didn't that one, I thought within 4 pitches, Chase would be able to get the strikeout. And so he came in and landed his very first pitch for a strikeout, which ended up being a huge out for us.
Second question was, you sounded very high on this team in your preseason press conference. You've played 3 games. How do you handle a team that you're very high on, but try not to get them too high, at so early in the year?
I don't know if I came across as high on the team or not. Those aren't necessarily my words. I think I'm really impressed by many of the individuals and what they've been able to accomplish on the team. I think all that kind of work that you're talking about happens in the fall and in the spring leading up to the season, just because whether I'm high on them or publications or media or rankings, none of it really matters because it always comes down to the games and the performances and how people respond to adversity and all those things that coaches talk about. And so I do think that we have the pieces to be great, but we're certainly not even close to being good enough to do what we want to do this year. And so there's just like a lot of growth, a lot of work that has to happen in order for us to be great. And we're not close to that yet. And so I think for them, it's just the same stuff of concentrating on the process, making sure we're focused on getting better because now West Virginia baseball is watched and it's listened to and it's evaluated. And so for our kids to understand that none of that stuff really means anything, it's just whether we think that we're playing good baseball and putting ourselves in a situation to be successful.
Thank you.
Greg, we'll go to you.
Yeah, Steve, just initial impressions from Tyrus Hall. I think 9 of his 11 at bats over the weekend were either a hit or a strikeout. But what can he add to your team? And can you just kind of talk about that balance of maybe trying to get him to cut back on the Ks, but obviously still had a very successful series and seems to add an element with his speed?
Yeah, he's a really fun one. He's tooled out. He's big, strong, and fast. I think he had the highest exit velocity out of anybody on our team. So he hit the ball harder than anybody on our team all weekend. He stole bases. He's a Canadian kid, a junior college transfer. So a lot of times when junior college kids come to this level, it takes a pretty long time to transition to the level of pitching that they're going to face. And so for Tyrus to have success in week one is unusual. So he was such a breath of fresh air. I mean, he hit in the 9 hole for 2 of the 3 games, and he was able to turn the bat over to the top in Gavin Kelly and to Matt Einish, who had huge series. And so in that role, that's his job to find a way to get on base to turn the lineup over. And he definitely did that. He was tremendous, and he gives you late in that order for someone to be able to have enough pop to drive a ball out of the yard is a pretty uncomfortable thing for opposing teams. So I was thrilled with his performance, and there'll be some growing pains along the way, but that's what this thing's all about.
Nick, we'll go to you.
Hey, Coach, how much of a plan do you come in with the pitching when you probably expected Cole and Max to go a little bit further? How, like, are you preparing guys like Corn, for example, like you're be ready to give us length today, or like even like Estridge coming in, like knowing he's close games for you out, and then even like Perez coming in, like how much do you talk to them before, like, hey, this is probably going to be your role, or is it just like play it by ear?
We actually, the first part of your question is leading up to the season, you're playing scrimmages, right? So you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for an example. And so let's say that we were lining up Cole, Yale, and Montesa to be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday starter. Well, someone has to compete against them in those days. So you choose your best other starting options. And it's really a competition. You don't know who's going to win that competition or who's going to build the most trust to start those games out. So Korn, Thacker, and Bassinger were the 3 guys that were on the other side of the starters building up to the season. So all those guys' pitch counts have been built up. So those were, quote unquote, the length guys. Some coaches would call it like a piggyback start early in the season because it's unrealistic for all your starters to go 7 innings early in the season. It's unrealistic in the last season of the series, or last series in the season most times. But yeah, Corn, Thacker, and Bassinger had all been built up. So Corn went 4 innings. Bassinger, I think, went about 4 innings, and then Thacker had 2 appearances. So those guys certainly did their jobs in that instance. You always plan, and then your plan gets ripped up, and then you adjust from that. So going into the weekend, my plan was that our starters would be able to give us 4 innings apiece because you're starting to just kind of map out 27 innings, right? How do you get 27 innings in order to pitch throughout the entire series? So I started with, okay, I thought it was reasonable that Cole, Yale, and Montesa would go 4 each. So Cole and Yale fell short of that expectation, and Montesa was more than the expectation. So Montesa picked up 6, so that kind of evened out the Yale outing or the Cole outing, and then we had to pitch a little bit more length out of the bullpen. I thought Bassinger and Korn, could probably each give us 2 to 3 innings, for example, and they both gave us more than that. So you kind of play that game where you're just kind of mapping this thing out, saying, well, how do I get to 27 innings? And you have a plan for who you think would need to pitch. And that's essentially what we did. If you'd have to check my math, but I think we ended up throwing 13 pitchers, 3 starters, 6, 7 relievers, and then 2 guys that we thought were more consistent strike throwers in Hagen and Korn. And so how you build the pitching staff when you go into the game to manage the game is you have some higher risk velocity guys, and you usually put some strike throwers on top of those guys if you need to neutralize the game. So you just like every player, every pitcher provides some different things that you're trying. There's like a lot of things you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, you want to get outs, but then there's also components of development. There's components of long-term health, building pitch counts, long-term development. Who needs to be great for you by the end of the year to be successful? They can't do that unless they pitch. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but yeah, to answer your question, you go in with some sort of plan, and it usually goes. Sometimes it goes great, sometimes it goes to hell, and you kind of adjust from there.
Mike, we'll go to you.
Hey Steve, how are you?
Doing great. How are you, Mike?
I'm well, thank you. I was wondering if you just talk about what is a closer nowadays. I don't know if that's a top of the ninth guy or bottom of the ninth guy anymore. You could throw him in the fourth inning if you need to get out of trouble. But what the philosophy shift is and how you handle that. But also, it seems like you have a number of players that could cover whatever definition you have for closer.
Yeah, I like that question. I don't I don't know that we've had a true closer here ever. Like, I don't think we've celebrated that. And you guys made right. There's guys that ended games, and like we were putting Bassinger and Estridge at the back ends of games, but it wasn't like, wait for this. We have a 3-run lead or less in the eighth or later, and we're calling for this guy. Um, my philosophy for the most part is you need to ensure that your best pitchers throw the most innings. So that's like a great starting spot. A closer at this level is truly a luxury item that some have, some don't. Ideally, you would want the best stuff that threw enough strikes with an ability to get swing and miss strikeouts in big moments. And so a lot of times you're forced to throw those guys in big spots to keep the game where you need to eventually strike to win the game. Um, the guy that the guy that sure gave you like some goosebumps and really looked like that traditional closer was the freshman that rolled out there and threw 8 pitches and they were all strikes and got 3 outs. That was freakish stuff by Dave Perez. He was 93 to 95 and literally threw a strike on every pitch to close out the series. Um, Chase Meyer, he's been our and he hasn't really been in a closure role ever. People would like assume that, I think. Um, but the reality is that he's been our get out of jail free card because we've brought Chase Meyer in every spot where our back's against the wall. And it's basically like if you don't get out of this, you're going to lose the game. And his stuff is so good that you're okay losing the game because you're in such a bad situation. And he's been able to perform at such a high level in those leverage spots, whether it's the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, or ninth. So and we think that Chase has performed the best, like from a personality standpoint. He loves the moment. He loves the juice. He loves the momentum, the energy. We think that helps him pitch well, and we used him again in that scenario this weekend. But Chase has matured and done great things. But yeah, to get back to your question on the closer role, we've had more of those like what I call a long closer situation where you put Bass in the fifth and let him run the game. You put Estridge in the seventh, let him run the game. We've done that a lot, and we've been fortunate to have some guys that have been able to do that. Um, so I think for us, we try to ignore that word role because you can imagine it's just like anything, whether you're an employee or a student athlete or whatever, it's very easy to kind of get obsessed with role. I'm the closer, I'm the left-handed specialist, I'm the Friday night starter, where really you want a stable of horses that are like, just give me the ball and Sabes isn't going to come get the ball from me until I fail, essentially. So you want to build that culture where it's like, I don't care what I am. You just give me the ball and I'm going to go get outs. And if I keep getting outs, leave me the hell alone. So that's kind of the theory for us. Um, Dave Perez was crazy. That was so cool. I mean, that's the best freshman first inning I've ever seen.
Okay, I want to stick with that one if you don't mind. That's a corner infielder, middle infielder, I think, when he came in, and you guys kind of said, yeah, maybe pitcher. Do I have that right? That was the trajectory. He's like a two-way, but thinking maybe more field than pitching.
Yeah, two-way guy, inexperience on the mound. We recruited him as both just because he was a super athlete. But Coach Garcia went and watched him pitch, and it was like in early March in Philadelphia, and it was snowing, and he was up to 97. And so we always said like this guy was up to 97 in a freezer. So we always knew we wanted to use him as a pitcher, but when he got here, we thought like as a freshman that hadn't played a ton of baseball, that was immature when it comes to like a skill development standpoint. We thought for him to actually have an impact this season for us and for his pro future, pitching is really where he was at. And so he could play a position at this level. We just thought we need to go all in with this pitching thing. And he bought in right away. The issue with doing that is really talented kids don't want to do that were recruited as both. Um, And he was like, no, if you think that's what I need to do, I'll do it. So he's just been like from the very first time we talked about it all in. And that happened like literally week one of the fall. So he bought in and he's reaping the benefits of it, right? He's literally brought in a 3-run game the very first series of the season. So a lot of trust has been built there with that kid.